Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to what will hopefully be the beginning of some stress-free living. My name is Lavanya, and on behalf of the organizing team, we would like to thank the Durban Jewish Club, Mr. Maharaj, and Mr. Pillay for their kind support to make this event possible. This morning's program will be a 1-hour lecture followed by a few questions. We will conclude this event at 12 noon. Let's take this 1 hour to really focus on how we can enhance our lives. Our speaker today is Sudhakar. He was born in Durban and hails from a distinguished business family. From an early age, his interest in philosophy grew to overshadow his academic accolades, including scholarships to renowned universities. After high school, Sudhakar decided to pursue his interest in philosophy. He has degrees in English literature and Vedanta philosophy. Sudhakar has been studying and sharing the development of the human intellect for over 2 decades. Sudhakar now travels extensively around the world lecturing on this pertinent aspects of life and living. His love and admiration for South Africa brings him back annually to provide this service. To better acquaint you with the Academy in India that we have been based at for the last 20 years, here's a short video.
Nestled in the serene hills of Malavali, India, 108 kilometers from Mumbai, lies a campus which draws seekers of self-development. Founded in 1988 by world-renowned philosopher Swami A. Parthasarathy, the Vedanta Academy is created to develop the whole personality of young individuals through a 3-year residential course. The course curriculum is based on Swami A. Parthasarathy's 65 years of scientific research and writing on Vedanta, India's timeless philosophy on life and living. The program enables you to strengthen your intellect and gain clarity of thinking. With reflection and focused discussions, you find answers to all of life's questions. The intellectual development is accompanied with devotional practices to elevate your mind's emotions. The campus provides you with facilities to discipline your body through yoga, various sporting activities, jogging, and gym. There are also opportunities to engage in service for a higher cause in various areas of your interests. A carefully designed daily schedule nurtures spiritual growth and is supported by the company of like-minded seekers from diverse backgrounds. You can also experience the Vedanta Academy through short visits, corporate leadership programs, customized retreats such as the Vedanta International Retreat for adults and the Next Gen Wisdom Summit for youth. Learn techniques to improve yourself and your relationship with the present-day world, and gain a taste of simple living and higher thinking. The Vedanta Academy is a place to find the ultimate purpose of life and uplift your personality to command success and peace.
We welcome Sudhakar to address us on stress-free living.
morning, everyone. Growing up in Durban, on the way to school, we'd be listening to the radio, usually East Coast, sometimes Radio Lotus, and it would start off on Monday morning. Friends, so sorry, we've got the Monday blues, but don't worry, if we all get together, we can get through the week. And I remember thinking, what's wrong with Monday? And then on Tuesday, the radio jockeys would be, well done, everybody. We got through Monday. A few more days to go, then we have the weekend. Wednesday, halfway there. Thursday, we can do it, everybody. Friday, nobody's working. How have we allowed ourselves to associate Monday mornings, work, something that we do 70%, 60% of our adult life, as stressful, as something that we don't look forward to? You've heard of TGIF? At the end of the session, if we're successful, we'd like to change that to TGIM. Thank God it's Monday. You can look forward to Friday also. Nice change of pace. How have we accepted stress as a part of life, as a part of relationships, as a part of daily living? Today's session is to bring stress into the light, define it, find out what is the true cause, and then hopefully solve it. Let's start from the beginning. What is stress? How would you define it, anyone? Worry. Anxiety. There's a range. Stress is agitation at the mental level. If you think of one of those heart monitors, you see the heart monitor in hospital, and it has fluctuations depending on your heart rate. Our peace of mind, our mental state is something similar. There are ups, there are downs. Sometimes there's ecstasy, sometimes there's depression. These are the hikes and the spikes. Imagine if we could be a little bit less fluctuation. Maybe even flatline. Not that you're dead, but the mind is at peace. And when the mind is at peace, what a life. How do we go about it? The range of agitation could be from something that's distracting you now in the back of your mind. Perhaps you're concerned for a loved one. Perhaps you had an argument before coming here. Perhaps you have an engagement after the session. Something going on in the background. If it is stronger, it is more present. We're not able to concentrate. We're not able to be in the room. If it gets stronger, it becomes this cloud, this weight on us. Depression. Keeps you up at night. Not able to sleep. How long does it take you to fall off to sleep when you hit the pillow? On average? Half an hour? 1 hour? 45 minutes? It should take you 20 seconds. The mind goes, time to sleep. Doom, doom, doom. Shut down. But our mind is racing. Our mind is regurgitating the day. Our mind is anxious of tomorrow. The mind is going through all the conversations that we had. Quiet mind. So stress is mental agitation. What is its cause? So I want you all to think about what you believe is causing you stress. Okay? Just take a moment. You've got something in mind? Someone in mind? The first lesson of stress management and stress-free living is nothing in the world can cause you stress. Nothing in the world can give you happiness. It's how you relate to it. My teacher, Swami Parthasarathy, he says, it is not who or what you meet in life that matters, but how you meet it. If stress was in the world, that person who you have in mind, your mother-in-law, sister-in-law, daughter-in-law, employee, employer, whoever you have in mind, would give stress to everyone. Something outside, an external experience, each one of us would relate to it differently. Let's take COVID, for example. How many of you found COVID difficult? There were some who said COVID has been the best thing to happen in a long time. So much of quality family time. There were others who said too much time with the family. There were times where people said, oh, I have an opportunity to be by myself. I can reflect. Some people were even threatening, Sudhakar, I'm going to study Vedanta. But others were saying, I feel isolated. I feel alone. It's all in how you relate to it. You take a situation that's challenging, stressful. An example given is hot water. You got 3 different aspects, elements brought to the hot water. You put a carrot into hot water, what happens? Soft, mushy. You put an egg into the hot water, boiled egg, brittle shell. You put a coffee bean into the water. The coffee bean not only doesn't change, it influences the water. It releases a fragrance. Now, depending on how we relate, sometimes a challenge, a situation that we're going through, sometimes it can make us mushy. We get overwhelmed. Sometimes it makes us brittle, it makes us hard. Sometimes, if we're strong enough, if we have the personality for it, we can influence the situation. I can't think of anything as difficult as war. Here's a philosopher, his name is Viktor Frankl, who says how, as human beings, we have the choice. Everything can be taken from a man and woman, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Between stimulus, so that's the world, that is perhaps your partner provoking you, that's perhaps someone criticizing you. Between stimulus and response, how you respond to the world, there lies a space. And in that space lies our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Friends, stress is not from the outside world. We think in South Africa we are allowed to be stressful. Of course, we've got load shedding. We have crime. We have service delivery issues. We've just come from Switzerland. Highly functioning democracy. Natural beauty, outstanding. They're stressed too. Not for load shedding. Not for service delivery. Different aspects. And this is the quality of our mind. It will find something to be stressed about. But what are we doing? We're trying to change the world. My partner's fine, but if they could just be a little bit more expressive. The country is fine, but we need solar panels. We're always correcting the world, which, as far as we can try. You might move country. You might change partners. When do we decide, how do I change how I respond to the world? When do I take that power, that responsibility, and see can I meet with this person better? Can I meet with this situation clearer? In the US, the divorce rate is at 55%, 60%. What do you think the divorce rate is for second marriages? So a person has genuinely said, look, it didn't work out this time, let's try the next one. What do you think? Take a guess. 70. Anyone else? He's right. It's 70%. It actually increases. So we think we're going to get it right in the next one. We go to the second one. Didn't work out. Third marriage? We should be wiser. It goes to 75. Fourth marriage? It comes down. By that time, people are dying. And it's all because we're trying to correct outside instead of trying to connect from the inside. Instead of deflecting the stress and the agitation, let's take the stress and reflect on it. Where is it coming from? Stress comes from our own mind. Not the other person, not the situation. So how do we relate to the world? Have you heard of BMI? What does it stand for? Body Mass Index. Unfortunately, this is the one that we are taught. Today, we're going to learn a new BMI model. It's called Body, Mind, Intellect. Okay, so change the M, change the I. Body, Mind, Intellect. We should have learned this in primary school with 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. Where is this education about how to make decisions, how to live life? So have a look on the screen. Each of us has a body. And our body is the vehicle that moves us from experience to experience. It's brought you here. It'll move you after this experience to the next experience, possibly a nice warm lunch. What we're concerned with today is who's driving the body. Because you could have a Golf of a body, you could have a Honda of a body, you could have a Ferrari of a body and crash it. Who's driving? And there are two drivers in the personality making all the decisions. The one is the mind, the other is the intellect. The mind is that part of you which feels, it just flows. It doesn't think. It just goes and flows. So it's the part of you that has feelings, emotions, impulses, likes and dislikes. If I ask any of you, what's your favorite color? Blue, red, black, green. Why? I just like it. Don't ask me for a thesis on it. I just like it. Which kind of food do you like? Chinese, South Indian. Now, what do you go by? Your mind or your intellect? The intellect is different from the mind. It is that part of you which has the ability to take a step back, pause, weigh up the pros, weigh up the cons, and then come to a conclusion. Let's put this into a situation. Imagine a diabetic who's fond of chocolate. Quite a few diabetics are. Could be you. To this diabetic, I offer Laderac, very nice Swiss chocolate. What does the diabetic's mind say? Feelings, emotions, likes and dislikes? I like it. I like chocolate. I desire it. I'm feeling for chocolate. This is good timing. This is divinity. What does the intellect say? Not a good idea. Remember what happened last time? You had to go to the clinic, get the injection, don't have it. The intellect reasons. But the intellect could also say, it's not so two-dimensional. The intellect could also say, look, you've been very disciplined this week. Your sugar level is low. And it's good chocolate. You can afford this. Go ahead. Thank you very much. So the mind and intellect can agree. The intellect is not meant to be a killjoy of the emotion, of the spontaneity. It's supposed to be a check. So they can agree. But the difference with the intellect is the intellect pauses, thinks, and then says, go ahead. So the intellect looks long term. How do I enjoy now, tomorrow, future? Mind? Mind is like a child. Mind is like, I want joy now. My default setting is immediate pleasure. How can I get it quickest, fastest, dopamine hit? Sugar. This is the mind. Now, suppose the mind says, eat the chocolate. Intellect says, not even a bite. What will the diabetic do? Stress. What will the diabetic do? What will you do? Eat the chocolate. Save it for another day when sugar is low. Diplomat. Wise. It depends. If the intellect is stronger than the mind, the intellect says, hey mind, relax, easy. We'll take the chocolate, we'll give it to my son. But if the mind is stronger than the intellect, this is the danger. Even though you know you shouldn't eat the chocolate, even though you know you'll feel guilty about it the next day, even though you know you'll suffer the consequences, we eat the chocolate, suffer. Why? Mind is stronger than the intellect. The only thing that is stopping us from achieving what we want to achieve, the only thing that is stopping us from having beautiful relationships is our own mind. It is the mind that interrupts our progress, our consistency, our concentration. Leave this diabetic aside. Let's bring it to our own lives. How many decisions are we making with mind or intellect? The beauty of family is they know exactly where to poke and provoke you. So they'll just leave a comment there, innocent. I just said that. You don't have to get upset. Poke. It is stimulus, no doubt. But Vedanta, mind, what does the mind want to do? The mind wants to debate, give a comment back. Suppose we could have that pause at that moment. Take a breath and analyze. If I say this, the person is probably going to say that, then I'm going to say this, and it's going to be a very awkward evening. Not a good idea. What are the other options? I keep quiet. Maybe that person gets more upset. Is there a way I could make a joke out of this? Yes, you know me, I'm always like that. Diffuse the whole situation. Have a pleasant evening. You get to choose. But if our mind is in control, that choice is taken away from us. Now we might say, where has this development of intellect been? Don't we get it from schools and universities? No. Schools and universities give us intelligence, and with that we make a living. A person goes to med school, they acquire intelligence about medicine. And because we don't know medicine, we go to a doctor, the doctor shares his knowledge, and there's a transaction. So with intelligence, we make a living, but we don't get quality of life. That's an intellect. Have any of you been to a course on relationships? How to keep a relationship going? How do we deal with disease? How do we deal with death? How do you bring up a child? is going to suggest that there should be a license to be a parent. You need a license to drive a car, to bring another human being into this world. There should be some qualification. Where is this life education? This life education or life enhancement is what this subject is about. It's called Vedanta. It's an ancient science dealing with the individual, the body, mind, intellect, and developing this intellect as well as intelligence. So information is great, it's useful, but it is the intellect that has to apply it. Now we're going to show how, if we don't apply our intellect, this mind takes control over our lives. 3 ways. The mind stresses us out through constantly generating desires. It rambles. It moves into the past and future. I'm going to explain each one. And remember, we had a thought about what is stressing us currently. Let's see, when we analyze these, which one is it? And the last one, the third one, is attachment. This is the big one that's going on in relationships that's causing us the stress. So let's go the first one. Generating desires. The mind's nature is it always wants more. It's never satisfied. So you feed the mind, it wants more. It's like fire. You feed the fire. You say, hey, fire, how much do you want? I'll take this and more. Similarly with our mind. And understanding this early will help us reduce our stress. Think about something that you really wanted. Perhaps for those of you who are younger, a good matric result. Then university, then a good job, then partner, then child number 1, child number 2. Having got each of those, how did you feel when you got it, when you achieved it? Yeah, there was some enjoyment. Think about the first car that you got. What was the excitement? How long did it last? For couples, honeymoon, wonderful. Post-honeymoon, different. What changes? The mind looks for something more. So we experience pleasure and happiness when we get what we want. When do we experience agitation? When are we unhappy? You have an ice cream, you have a desire for an ice cream, you eat the ice cream, pleasure. What is agitation then? What is stress? Sorry? Desire? Deprivation. When you are deprived of what you desire. Desire, unfulfilled, causes agitation. You get what you want, happy. You don't get what you want, unhappy, miserable. If it is a strong desire, lots of agitation. Example, suppose right now, in this room, during the lecture, you have a desire for a cigarette. This is what's happening. You're sitting down, and the mind goes, cigarette, cigarette, cigarette. If it is a medium desire, it's more regular. You're listening to the lecture, cigarette, 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 cigarette. If it's a very strong desire, cigarette, 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 cigarette. And then say, please excuse me, you step out, light that cigarette. Moksha. Enlightenment. What have we done? All we've done is that self-created agitation that we've allowed to build up, cigarette, 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 cigarette. When we have the cigarette, quietened. But for how long? Hour, few hours, who knows? The idea here is desire unfulfilled causes us agitations. And how many unfulfilled desires do we have? I want my partner to be like this. I want my children, they could improve in their marks. They're not doing well in Afrikaans. Mathematics, always weak in our family. Improve that. The weather, a perfect Durban day is about 22 degrees. Today is a little on the chilly side. I'm surprised all of you braved the weather and the cloudy skies to come and be with us this morning. Thank you. So many desires we have. I'm looking for that new car, the new jacket, new coat. I need to repair my shoes. That light bulb is not fixed. These are all the unfulfilled desires causing noise, keeping us awake. What can we do? Bring in the intellect. And there's two ways that the intellect can come in here. Minimize and standardize. So, do an exercise when you leave, not now. Do an exercise where you write down all the desires that you're thinking about. A new sari, a new car, a renovation of the house, etc. And those desires that you think are not necessary now, close them. What are they doing there? Minimize it, close it. Oh, but I have a desire for Portugal. You've just come back from Spain. Let's talk about it 1 year from now. Close, close. You know, like how with your phone slows down if you have many apps open, and you close it every now and then. Sometimes 20 apps are open. Similarly with your mind. Close, 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 close. You decide. Go into your wardrobes, into your homes, into your garages. Let's start with the wardrobe. And have a look in your wardrobe. What items there you have not used for the last year? What is it doing there? Give it away. Why are you keeping it? No, I like it. This is where it is excess baggage, excess luggage. Get rid of it. Give it. Pass it on. How many watches do you have? This is a question my teacher would ask. How many watches do you have? A person might say, 5. He said, why 5 watches? Look, you got 2 wrists. Okay, fine. 2 ankles also. Give 1 away. And he was going around a classroom like this, and he asked one gentleman, just interacting with the audience, how many watches do you have? And this gentleman, we had these low tables. He went under the table. No, Swamiji, don't ask me. And everybody's wondering what happened to him. So anyway, he moved on to the next person. How many watches do you have? The guy said 6. Same thing. Why you need 6? Give 2 away. Later, this gentleman came. He met my teacher. And he said, Swamiji, did my wife tell you? We said, what are you talking about? No, you asked me this morning, how many watches do I have? How did you know? No, what? Swamiji had forgotten. I have 55 watches. Not Casio, Swiss watches. He said, Swamiji, what do I do? Please help me. Will you take some? Don't pass on your disease. Give it to your family, give it to your staff. This is it. Minimize. You decide how much you need. How many pairs of shoes? Watches, okay, 1 for going out, maybe 1 for sports. Decide. But then you stop your mind from every time there's a sale, watches, 50% off. It's calling you. It's calling you. Come, come. You're clear. I've already got 2 watches. I'm very happy with it. Turn the page. Pass the store. There's a quote by Plato. He says, every time I pass a shop, I am amazed at the number of things man can do without. Now, every time we pass a mall, we're amazed, oh, this will be useful, that will be useful, a toaster and a coffee maker in one? Close, minimize, standardize. How much do I need? You decide. And a practical way to do this would be, let us learn to be rich. This auditorium would not be enough if we had changed stress-free living to how to be rich. But it probably would have been a different type of audience. But I'm going to share with you right now how you can be rich. It's not in the quantum. Suppose any of you could say, this amount, Sudhakar, can guarantee you rich life. It's not there. Because you get there, mind goes, more. The person at 500,000 thinks, million. Person at million says, 5 million is a nice number. It doesn't stop. The billionaires, they may be poor because they're looking at each other and saying, I don't have my own spaceship. He has his own spaceship. He's gone out of this world. He's poor. Sometimes the way they explain their struggles that they're going through, you want to send 100 rand towards your spaceship. We can be rich right now. And it's all about how we relate to the wealth that we have. Have a look at the screen. A rich person is one whose wealth is more than what they desire. So it doesn't matter the quantum. As long as we keep our desires under our wealth, we feel rich, we feel complete, we feel like we have a surplus, there's an abundance. You feel charitable. But the moment we allow the mind and its desires to cross our wealth, that's when we become poor. That's when we feel we don't have enough, we feel insecure, insufficient. Change it. And here's the thing, I'm not asking you to be complacent, but the idea is, let us fix our desires under our wealth. As the wealth increases, you can increase your desires. Change your car, change your home, improve your home, but never let it cross. Otherwise, the first thing we try and do, loan, debt. How can I enjoy now what I don't have? And then we're enslaved for that interim. He who is not contented with what he has, so if you're not contented with what you have right now, you would not be contented with what he would like to have. So Seneca, a Roman thinker, he says this very profound advice. We think happiness is in the promotion. We think happiness is in finishing matric, getting the degree. When you get it, from experience, it's not there. Oscar Wilde, he says, there are only two tragedies in life. One is not getting what you want. The other is getting it. Because then you realize it's not here either. So what do we do with the intellect? Let's bring up our desires for scrutiny. Close the ones we don't think are necessary. Minimize, standardize, and keep our desires below our wealth. Then strive for more. So you're content right now, going forward, you'll be able to be more productive. The second way the mind causes us stress is that it rambles. In Sanskrit, it is called monkey mind. It's always chanchala astiram, means restless, unsteady. And it's described as a monkey because the monkey is always moving. So even if a monkey is in one place, like some of you, restless. And if you bring a young child here, the child will be moving about. Why? So much of energy, so much of mind. The mind nature is to go into the past and the future. It brings up the past, brings up the future. Very difficult for it to be in the present. It is the intellect's job to keep the mind on the present activity. But the mind goes, gone, gone. That's why I keep looking at each of you. Come back, come back. One person still at the Chinese restaurant we mentioned earlier. Come back. Other person's thinking 55 watches. Who's this guy? Can I call him? Come back. In fact, if any of you have been here with me 50% of the time, thank you very much. But the problem is the mind travels, keeps moving. We need a strong intellect to keep the mind where we want it. And when the mind is where we want it, in the present, two benefits. The first is concentration. Sometimes we tell our children, study, 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 concentrate, concentrate. Suppose the child was to turn around and ask you, what is concentration? Mom, Dad? Never mind, concentrate. Here's the definition. Concentration is your intellect holding the mind on the present activity, okay, without allowing it to slip into the past or the future, then you're concentrating. The number one tool of distraction for concentration is the mobile phone. The mobile phone stops us from being where we are. Because when we are here, we're thinking about there. And when we go there, we're thinking about here. Keep that phone aside. Be in the present. It's not very uncommon these days, I'm sure, where you go for a dinner and you see a family together, you think that's nice, quality time, and all of them are on their phones. But we should give the benefit of the doubt. Perhaps they're messaging each other. What do you think we should order? The waiter is taking really long. Okay, I'm watching this entertainment. You don't need Z, you got live entertainment going on. And then the food comes. And what do people do next? Or have you witnessed? They're taking photos of the meal, okay? And the daughter is telling the mother, Mom, move out of the frame. You're spoiling the shot. Just move out of the frame a little bit. And they're taking photos of, as if they're doing the brochure for the restaurant. They're taking it. And I'm so tempted to go and tap them on the shoulder and say, your food is getting cold. But why are they doing that? Why are they taking pictures of their food? Instagram, social media. Look, friends, this is what I'm enjoying now and you're not. But actually, I'm also not enjoying because I'm taking a picture of what I should be enjoying. It's a mad, mad world. If we decide to do something, do it. But then in the middle of it, the phone comes. I have seen people, as they've decided to do yoga, they're in the middle of Surya Namaskar, warrior pose, and then checking their messages. Go for a walk, be with your walk. Decide to have a conversation with your spouse, be with your spouse. Decide and do it, be in the present. So number one, concentration. So whatever you do will be better. In fact, this is what I would tell the World Cup teams, rugby and cricket. Don't think about the cup. Just play the game. Well, that's it. But the person is thinking what? I just got hit for a 4. So, where do you want to pitch the ball? That's it. But I have to score the penalty for us to win. You've done this so many thousands of times in practice. Just where do you kick the ball? Where do you want to aim it? Be in the present. Performance. The second part is, it is a wonderful anti-aging formula. It keeps you young. So, instead of spending on L'Oreal, you could try intellect. Keeping the mind in the present. No worries of the past, no anxieties of the future. I hope you get an opportunity to visit the Vedanta Academy. You cannot tell people's ages there. Starting from my teacher, he's 96. Doesn't have wrinkles on his face. You ask him, what's his secret? One person actually did. The daughter saw an invitation card. So she asked the father, oh, I would like to speak to Swamiji. And the father was very happy. Finally, she's interested in some wisdom. And then she said, no, Dad, don't get excited. I just want to ask what moisturizer he uses. No worries of the past, no anxiety for the future. That gives you energy, that keeps you young. There was a Swami, his name was Swami Ramatirtha. They asked him, Swami, what do you do for rest on the weekends, vacations? To which he replied, intense work is rest. This is it. TGIM. Work is rest. Why? You're fully in the present. It doesn't take up your energy. Now, the last way the mind causes us stress is attachment. When the mind gets attached, it means that the mind ties itself to an object or a person and becomes dependent on that person. Now, we've got to ask ourselves, how attached or dependent have we made ourselves become? One of the strongest attachments is children. But there was a time where you didn't have a child. You didn't have that dependency on the child's mood, on the child's health. How did we become dependent? How was that created? Let me put it to you this way. What is the price of your peace? What does it take for you to lose your peace of mind? Does it take a comment, a criticism from someone? Does it take your partner's mood not being the way you want it? Does it take your child not doing well in school or having a cold? What does it take for you to lose your peace of mind? And each one of us has got, it's a scale. So for instance, suppose you leave your lip balm here in the hall and you go home. Where's this lip balm? You're okay. It's all right. Don't worry about it. Suppose you leave your watch. You'll call the organizers, say, have you seen a watch? So you're okay with the lip balm. You're okay with the watch. You go outside and your fully paid for vehicle is not there. Okay? Other countries can't relate to this. In South Africa, we can. We were having dinner at a friend's house on Milner Road, and we had parked, and for those of you who know Milner Road, it's on a hill. So we parked, and we had dinner with the friends, and then I asked my brother to get an album to come and show them from the car. So he went outside, and he comes back, and he's very cool. The car's not there. What do you mean, the car's not there? The car is not there. I said, this was a solid object in the universe. Where has it gone? So we all went outside, the friends and us, and we're looking. And he was right. The car was not there. And what I still remember is, because it was a hill, all of us are looking, perhaps it rolled down. And we're looking down the hill for this car. So it was stolen. We went and reported it to the police. But does it agitate you? Do you lose your peace of mind, your sleep, your health because of that? Your lip balm is there. Your watch is there. Your car is there. Your home, there's a fire. There's a geyser leak. So much of damage, flood damage. How do you deal with that? Now, one can only imagine those who have mastered their mind. There was this Zen monk. He said, when my house burned down, I got an uninterrupted view of the stars. We're not there yet. At what level do we crack, do we break? Have a look at this. You can see on the graph, on the left side is, what is the strength of your intellect? Is it 25, 50, 75? If you are developed 25%, then you need the world 75% to cater to you. The temperature must be right, the government must be functioning, the household must be running smoothly. It's very difficult for you to be happy. But as you develop yourself, and instead of developing or relying, depending or relying on the world for your happiness, you find it within, then you need the world less and less. It'll take much more of the world to disturb your peace of mind. So the exercise here is, with the intellect, examine your areas of dependency. Could be financial, could be emotional. I'm very attached to my parents. I'm very attached to my children. And see how we can reduce that dependency. Prepare for worst case scenarios, work for best case scenarios. Because if you are prepared, then you don't have that shock. Your intellect is the shock absorber for life. Why do you take out car insurance? Is it compulsory in South Africa? It's compulsory in some countries. You say, isn't that a very negative way of living life? Taking out car insurance, somebody's going to hit me? No. You're preparing for a possible eventuality. And because you prepared, if something was to happen, hopefully not too hectic, you would be okay. Why? You're insured. But we're not insured against events in life itself. Insure. And the last aspect of attachment, how it expresses is, it expresses in the form of expectation to those we're attached to. We don't expect things from strangers, but we expect maximum from the people that we claim to love. Have a look at this equation. There's a difference between love and attachment. Love, when it's polluted by selfishness, when we want something out of the relationship, it becomes attachment. Attachment, how do we get back to love? Reduce the selfishness, more love. When there is love, there cannot be disharmony, conflict. Why? Because you understand the other person, you accept them as they are. But if there is attachment, you might say, I love you. Asterisk. Terms and conditions apply. What are the terms and conditions? I love you as long as you do the dishes. I love you as long as you keep the bathroom clean. I love you as long as... Perhaps if the partner or the child had read the terms and conditions, they may have gone back. What are all these conditions? What we're saying is, I love parts of you, I don't love the other parts. This is not love. This is not acceptance. And that is why people feel the judgment. If we're attached, if we have all this expectation, we see people according to what we desire. According to what we would like them to be. So we're constantly comparing them, the reality versus image in our head. Let us try to love, accept the person as they are, not as we would like them to be. And a person can feel that. They can feel the judgment. They can feel the non-acceptance. Remove our likes and dislikes. My partner is like this. Some qualities I like, some qualities I don't like. The whole package, yeah, it's good. And for this, the intellect's got to come in. So just as the first form of attachment, intellect prepared us for possible aspects where we're dependent, here the intellect has to come in and actually assess those around us. It means, and this is an advice that you can practice from today, go home, and I would say for this, use pen and paper. Some people have forgotten how to write. Put it on paper. It has a different impact. And the people close to you that you interact with, assess them. Assessment means write down their qualities. Example, my partner is kind. My partner is very talented in marketing, also in cooking. Write down all the qualities. My partner can also be short-tempered. This is not a criticism. This is an analysis and assessment to help you relate better, to know what to correctly expect according to their nature. You might, in your assessment, come to, my partner is unpunctual by 15 minutes. Any event we have to go, this morning, Sudhakar, I told her 10:30. We came 10:45 because of her. Very simple. Assess it, understand it. What time do you tell the partner? 10:15 it tells us to be there. Then when she sees that you are so calm, she says, why are you not rushing? Why are you not shouting at me? Vedanta. All you've done is you've assessed and you've kept that little bit of buffer. No problem. So many ways we can relate like this. If we have the assessment, we will know what to expect. We won't be disappointed. We won't be stressed. A lady wakes up in the morning and she asks the husband, darling, I'm feeling tired. Can you get me a cup of coffee? And he replies, that's a wonderful idea. If you're feeling for coffee, can you get one for me too? The lady must understand, this is my husband. I'm in the right house. But if she wakes up and the husband says, oh, darling, you haven't had your coffee yet? Let me run and get it. This is not my husband. I am in the wrong house. Assessment. People will be what they are, who they are. They will act according to their nature. You can try and change, but are we perfect? And in that trying to change comes so much of the resistance, the confrontation, the attachment that causes all divorces, breakups, disharmony. See people as they are. You need not encourage qualities that you don't like, but don't judge a person. Don't not love a person because we're more interested in our version of that person. So see it on the screen. Lack of assessment or wrong assessment leads to unreasonable expectations. We want an unpunctual person to be punctual. Therefore, we are disappointed, stressed. Now, this is where we've got to use our intellect. When we are stressed, disappointed, instead of arguing with the other person or having the same fight every event you have to go to, use your intellect. Why am I stressed? What was my unreasonable expectation? What did I not assess correctly about my partner? Tinkle, 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 rewire, perfect assessment, right expectation, no stress. In all avenues, it is the mind that causes us stress, either through unfulfilled desires, not being in the present, worry and anxiety, or attachment. We need an intellect at every aspect to minimize and standardize our desires, to keep the mind in the present, not allow that anxiety to overtake us. And the last part, detach with the intellect. Meet people as they are. Let us try to be less dependent. How do we develop this intellect? The intellect is like a muscle. You got to use it. And the way it gets developed is by questioning everything, not taking anything for granted. Ideally, we should have started this at the age of 7, 8, when the intellect starts surfacing. So we got some catching up to do. So to get going, what I'd recommend is get information on the intellect. Study it. Make it your intellect gym time, and do it first thing in the morning preferably. Start your day with half an hour to 1 hour of intellect development time. Just as we've provoked our thinking in this session with questions, use the literature to get there. And the literature is, I would suggest, these 4 books. It's the course that we study in India. They are available at the back. The first book is The Fall of the Human Intellect. It's the thinnest one. The second book, Governing Business and Relationships, it's got a little bit more substance in terms of it is the application of the intellect to work and home. Then you've got The Holocaust of Attachment. What happens when the mind takes over? Complete devastation. And the last book is for those of you who have started asking the bigger questions. So we've started asking, why should there be stress in my life? If you start asking the bigger questions, what is the purpose of life? Then this book is for you. It took 25 years to write and takes you from where you are to unbroken peace and happiness of enlightenment. Or, if you'd like to get some momentum for early nights and early mornings, come visit us in India at the Academy. So we have these youth camps that happen twice a year. The next one is in December. And we have a scholarship program for the kids who would like to come and don't have the means. We also have retreats at the Academy, and we have weekly classes online and in person in Durban. So depending on your interest, decide how you want to take the subject forward. Perhaps a practical one, since we're in the mobile age, is the app. So we have a Vedanta World app that has all the lectures and snippets, and you can decide there your level of interest. So all the information is available on our website for these avenues, and there's also an introductory course to take you deeper into the subject as well. Simply put, it is the mind that causes us stress and agitation. With the intellect, we can manage the mind. You conquer the mind, you conquer the world. That's stress-free living. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sudhakar. For the Q&A, please submit your questions here. Can we just get a mic to you?
Thank you for such an enlightening discussion. So in life, you always find that one person is obviously not perfect in your, your theory or what you are trying to ask us to adapt to our everyday life, which is perfection. But some of us get some of it right, which you say, and then you've got this other person, whether it be in a work environment or your home environment, that just doesn't get any of that. So you always the one person that's adjusting, and you find that there's somebody that's So how do you just keep being that person that's always adjusting, and how do you get that other person to start adjusting? I don't know if that makes any sense. There's no compromise.
So, with someone who is not adapting, adjusting, and you feel that you're always adjusting, adapting to the other person's needs, that is their nature. So, their nature is more on the selfish side. So, they're not accommodating your aspect. So, we would go on trying to show them that this is what I require, this is what I need. We can try communication. We can try expressing those areas where we do require support. Ultimately, if the person does not change or slips back, we've got to understand that that is their nature. So now I have a choice now whether to continue relating with this person or not. Or if I'm going to relate to this person, I understand this person's nature, that they can only provide so much, and I would need that support elsewhere, with friends, with a support group, a community. Is it worth leaving this person for? No, because perhaps many other aspects are taken care of, but not the one aspect that I'm looking at. So this is where we have to do the analysis, but you decide. So instead of us dragging our feet in a relationship or feeling like we're always the one being taken advantage of, change it. Do it on your terms. This is what I can bring to the relationship. This is what I expect from the person because I know their nature. I'm deciding to be in this relationship. So the focus should be more on what kind of partner would I like to be? Would I be happy being? And whatever I don't get from the partner, see how I can be less dependent in those areas. Any other questions? Yes.
We have a question from Alex first.
Okay.
Could Alex put up his hand? Alex's question is, if in depression, currently due to issues with people and family, how do I practice this mind to get out of it?
So when a situation has got quite severe, and I'm not sure what extent of depression, Alex, you are referring to, but if it is quite severe, then we need to remove ourselves from that environment that we're not able to meet, to relate to. Because this subject comes in when the intellect is available. But when the emotions are so strong, intellect's not available. So we've got to wait for that mind to get a little bit more calm, a little bit more peaceful, and that's when we can start analyzing. So it's a very practical question for all of us, because we've got to find out when dealing with others and with ourselves, if we are too emotional, that is not the time to give a Vedanta lecture. Husband and wife are throwing slippers at each other. And Sudhakar comes. Wait. Body, mind, intellect. Use your intellect, friends. I'll also get one slipper. So we've got to have the right setting, the right atmosphere for reflection, for thinking. And that's why I'm suggesting the early mornings. Because the early mornings, you're not disturbed. You're not getting emails yet, hopefully. You're not getting messages yet. You've got that time for yourself. That is the best time when your mind is relatively calm to figure out these things about life, to learn about life. So Alex, suggestion is, find an environment or remove yourself temporarily from the environment that you feel is very difficult to deal with. When your mind is in a calmer state, start with the first book, The Fall of the Human Intellect. If it is very severe, we might need the help of medicine to help bring us to a calm mind.
Our next question is from Sergio, and she asks, how can this knowledge translate to a wider part of our society?
Education. Sejo. So it's education. And the idea is, even now, you're asking this question. For all of us, from this session, what do we take away? What's the key takeaway? Anyone? Yeah. Who must use their intellect? I must use my intellect. But what does our first thought go to? My children need this. I gave a lecture like this in France, and a gentleman came up to me and he's, Sudhakar, wonderful lecture, wonderful. Now, I know exactly what is wrong with my wife. I said, you've missed the point. Change yourself, not others. So if you change yourself, you'd be surprised the circles it starts changing. And depending on our circle of influence, that circle gets impacted. So right now, I graduated from Durban High School. We have had 9 students from Durban High School do the 3-year residential course. That's incredible. That's like how DHS has produced the most number of Proteas. I'd say equal honor. They've produced the most number of Vedanta Academy graduates in the world. One school. Circle of influence. Your children, your family, the people that you work with, the people that you interact with, even when you interact and pass the security guard, there's an interaction there. There's a presence there. I had the pleasure of, during this week, being interviewed on some radio stations. And I'm not sure if they're simply saying it, but they said, there's a different vibration, presence here. Like, we're a little bit anxious today. There are a lot of things going wrong. But just talking to you, feel a little bit more peaceful. You don't even need to talk. You can just sit next to someone and they feel it. So it really starts from developing myself and then, yes, pass it on to those who are receptive. And that is what this community is doing. They're sharing it. And that's hopefully how most of you came about to this session. Yes?
So if I could just elaborate, I asked the question because philosophies like this are sometimes seen as philosophies with privilege.
Oh, can you just use the mic?
Sorry, I asked the question because when you talk about philosophies like this, it's seen as philosophies for people in a place of privilege. And in order for us as an entire society, and I agree with you as changing as an individual, but it's very hard to balance that when you're surrounded by communities or people that you may work with and interact with who just don't have the space in real terms to even interrogate the intellect or understand what that means. And that was what I was trying to say. How can we maybe simplify this to let it translate to that wider community? And that's, because we confronted on a day-to-day basis with beautiful philosophies, but it's just getting people to listen to it.
Sure.
And accept it into their lives where they literally can't put food on the table or, those sorts of needs are priorities. That's where my question was from.
So this philosophy is essential to every human being. How do we identify the different aspects of our personality and optimize them for whatever success we can achieve according to our capacity? So that model that we saw earlier, the body, mind, intellect, that should be there in every school. When I'm making a decision, Is it my mind pushing the decision or my intellect? Even now, when you go back, and it could be when you're ordering something at lunch, it'll be, is this my mind, is this my intellect? Suddenly you become articulate. This is the kind of conversation we would like to start in primary schools. So those of us who are in this line full time, where we get access to youngsters and schools, we present, we share. So wherever you would like to share and have access, so for instance, you're a board member of a school, you have access to the whole school, one of our alumni can come and share it with the whole school. We've had classes in different schools in Durban where they've gone through the first book. We had a youth event just 3 weeks ago where it was open to all schools. So we had different schools coming and interacting because this is the subject of a human being. If any of you have ideas on how we can better share it, please speak to us. It can be simplified. It's customized to the audience in front of us.
We have a question from Pam. A newly married couple considering divorce due to extreme hurt and disrespect. Please advise on techniques to rescue the relationship and, more importantly, to heal and attempt to save the marriage.
So, before marriage, you perhaps are not seeing the person every day, every moment, every hour. Then when you're married, there's a lot of proximity. Now the person's constantly available. So what you went from looking forward to meeting that person, now it's, I need some time. And the idea here is to understand is that it's the nature of the mind to start taking for granted what we have. And this is where in a relationship, whether it's new or whether it's old or longer, a little bit of elbow room, a little bit of space, not too far, you don't have to go to another continent. Look, you be in Australia, we'll meet twice a year. One lady, she told me, because it's very surprising to find someone who has a good working marriage. And she said, no, I'm happily married for 19 years. I was like, okay, where do you stay? Oh, I stay in Coimbatore. And where does, and then she, in the course of the conversation, but my husband stays in Chennai. Oh, this is the recipe. It need not be so far. But elbow room means you don't have to do everything together. We don't have to be on the same page for everything. We can agree to disagree. We can agree to do different things. But we can also plan our together times. And if it is more conscious, this idea of giving each other space, we can look forward to the time that we have when we're together. So to this newly married couple, I would suggest talk to someone you believe has a higher intellect than you to see and customize the advice for your situation. But what you can try is just a little bit of space in the relationship. In the olden days in India, husband and wife used to have separate beds, separate rooms, and no public display of affection. So can you imagine that couple, when they want to get together, they really get together. So this is the idea. You keep a little bit of space, a little bit of abstinence. You're looking forward to each other. Imagine going to your favorite restaurant, right? And because you can afford that restaurant, you go there every single day. You will stop enjoying it as much as you are. Same thing with a person.
We have a question from Gopika. The question is, role of the ego in the relationship between the mind and the intellect.
The role of the ego.
Yes.
So the ego is one other aspect that comes into the play of body, mind, intellect. It'll fit between mind and intellect. The ego is that part of thought that is I, my sense of identity. And like the mind, it also has to be managed by the intellect to ensure that it does not destroy relationships, does not distract you from the work. So if the I is very prominent, we find we're personalizing everything. We're taking it personally. Someone could say, why is that one chair sitting all by itself very lonely? I didn't do it. I wouldn't do such a thing. That was not the question. But we make it about ourselves. And when the ego is exaggerated, everything is a drama. A problem becomes much bigger than it is because we personalize it. How do you dissolve this ego? What are we here in this room? One matchstick. What is this matchstick in Durban? One dot. What is this dot in South Africa? Micro dot. What is this micro dot in the globe? Micro dot. What is this in our galaxy? I can't see nothing. We're so small. What are these problems that we are allowing to disturb our peace of mind? Don't sell your peace for your ego. Me and my. My way. Attachment. Attachment to ego. My way. My way of thinking is right. Okay. You live according to your way. Let the other person live according to their way. But what if we have to work together? That's why we have roles. Who's the leader? Who's responsible in this aspect? You submit. Hope that's okay.
There's a question from Vedant. The question is, how do you get the intellect to control the mind and by extension, emotion, without risking becoming completely numb and reducing the value of living?
Who's the questioner?
Vedant.
Vedant, where are you? A human being is both a feeling and a thinking being. So it's not that the intellect should suppress the emotions. The emotions should be there as a driver in your personality. To have passions is a virtue. But if those passions overtake your personality, you become passionate, then you're a victim of passion. To have emotions is a positive thing. But if you turn emotional when you're the victim of emotions, negative. Sentiments, fine. Sentimental, negative. So we should have emotions, because if you have your emotions supporting what you are doing in life, what a life. You're flying. You've got the wind at your sails. So if mind and intellect together are in the direction you want, excellent. But it's the intellect's job as the adult in the personality to educate, guide this mind. Hey mind, this is what we really want. Let's cooperate, let's do this, let's get there. The mind misbehaves, it's okay. But ultimately when we make a decision, it must go through the filter of the intellect. That is the intellect's job in the human personality. When deciding, use the intellect. But the intellect also takes the mind's emotions into consideration. So for instance, this poor diabetic not getting any chocolate. The mind is saying, please, can I have one more piece? I'm dreaming of chocolate. The intellect understands. If the mind does not have this piece, it's going to have an entire cake. So it takes that into consideration and says, have the peace. So both must be developed in Vedanta. When it comes to decision making, use the intellect.
We'll take up the last question, and the questioner is Lungile. Please repeat the homework that was given. You said practice this, not now, something.
So the homework that was given, we can have the stressful mind diagram. This is the quick fix, which you can practice straight away. So first one is, make a list of all the desires that are in your mind. The desires that you don't need to entertain right now, close them. Say, I don't need that car right now. We got one last year. It's good for 3 years. Let me not look at another car. Close. Minimize and standardize. Decide how much of something do you want. How many pants do I need? How many shoes do I need? How many watches? And then, once you've done this exercise, let us look at our balance sheet of life. What is my wealth? And am I keeping my desires, my expenses under my wealth? You will always be rich. The second part is, schedule your present. If you know where you need to be throughout the day, it is much easier for your intellect to bring your mind into the present. So right now, you know the intellect should be in this lecture. You find it going to lunch, come back. We'll think about it 5 minutes from now. The last one is, examine the areas of your dependency. Work on figuring out how to be okay if that situation, that person is not there. Let's be less dependent. And the last part of attachment was, assess people as they are, not as we would like them to be. Now, to remind us, to develop our intellect, to do all of this, I suggested the literature and the classes. So, when you leave, take a book with you, start the subject, and if you want to explore further, there's a community here where you can engage and take your study forward. Thank you, everybody.